I consider one particular contribution of Elder Porphyrios to be of exceptional importance, and it may also be the most difficult one to evaluate. A multitude of healings are attributed to Porphyrios, and yet, if Porphyrios is seen as a healer, he cannot be understood. What do I mean? There are stories about healings he effected which seem to suggest that health is unquestionably the highest value, and that the restoration of health is the basic work of the Church. From this perspective, whoever has acquired a true relationship with God finds healing. The visitation of God is identified with healing, with the implication that this is the prime goal of piety. Inevitably, in such narratives, the fact that Porphyrios himself was unbelievably sick and remained incurably ill to the end of his days plays no role whatsoever. In my humble opinion, it is clear that for a wide swathe of current religious sentiment, the absence of efficacious healing is a scandal. For that reason, healing is extolled along with successes in childbearing, achievements in school examinations, victories over economic problems, and the attainment of prosperity and social advancement. In no small measure, the gospel of health and wealth has found its way into church life. How did Porphyrios himself deal with such views? How far did he accept them? Did he correct them, or did he foment them? My impression is that Porphyrios in no way extolled health. What he extolled was love. This was his message, not the healings themselves. He himself remained uncured, just as Paul was not relieved of the thorn in his flesh, and Moses did not enter into the promised land, even though both of them were granted visions of God. There are saints that are raised to the heights of a pure and transparent relationship with God on account solely of their love for the beloved, and not for the sake of some worldly benefaction that they have received from him. For this reason, there is an element that seems to be contradictory in Porphyrios' life. He prayed for the day-to-day problems of thousands of people, and at the same time he felt that we are blackmailing God when we ask him to relieve us of our problems. The most perfect way, he used to say, is not to pray for health, not to pray to become well, but to become good. My own understanding is that Porphyrios showed concern for human problems, not because he regarded their resolution as something of value in itself, or as religious confirmation, but because he saw the danger that the person who is fixated on his pain will be psychologically devastated and will become entrapped within his privation. The foundation of this attitude is precisely his advice, not to pray to become well, but to become good. This is a position that sounds extreme and seems to overlook the fact that St. Paul had prayed 3 times for his healing. What Porphyrios clearly wished to do, however, this precious formulation was to make clear where the center of gravity in the believer's value system should lie. Because what is at issue is not that various elements and sundry goods go to make up human life, but where life has its center of gravity. I have the sense that the extolling of health and of bourgeois values create a kind of worldly eschatology that overlooks that fact that history is an unceasing war between life and corruption, and that its outcome is to be found in the eschatological kingdom, the criterion for which is love and not longevity or social felicity. This singular ascetic anarchism relativizes everything and gives decisive significance to the orientation of human existence. And thus, just as the fact of Porphyrios' incurability does not usually become a source of theology, so in the triumphant accounts of healings there is no room for the mystery, for the miracle of there being no miracle, for the infinite number of cases where faith flowers without the illness being taken away, without childlessness coming to an end, and without unforeseen death being avoided. Porphyrios is known as Porphyrios of Kavsokalyvia from his spiritual birthplace, the Athanite skete of Kavsokalyvia, which takes its name from St. Maximus Kavsokalyvitis, the hut burner, a famous ascetic from the 14th century who used to burn down his makeshift shelters every so often and disappear into the anonymity of another unknown location. In terms of the place where Porphyrios served, he could equally well be called Porphyrios of Omonia, from the central square in Athens where he worked as a hospital chaplain, or even Porphyrios of Attica, from the region where he lived for many years. He always remained, however, a monk of Kavsokalyvia, not simply because of his desire to die in the monastic cell in which he had his spiritual roots, but above all because of his way of life. During his earthly life, he set fire to the absolutism of every worldly shelter, every value that tends to be made autonomous as a value in itself. At his last moment, moreover, he ventured to set fire even to the tabernacle of his soul. He made sure that his last resting place would remain unknown. He requested to be buried in a grave in which a rotund and jovial monk had previously lain, so that he might steal something of his sanctity. After the unearthing of Father Porphyrios' bones, Elder Papathanasiou was buried in this same grave. The translation of Papa Nicanor's bones has now also taken place. You will now find no personal grave for Elder Porphyrios, and his bones have disappeared, just as he requested, hidden deep within the forest of Kerasia. The two supreme testimonies to his radical hut-burning tendencies are, in my opinion, as follows. First, his own confession about his concern and acute consciousness that many people who did indeed preach and did indeed work miracles in the name of Christ will prove in the end to be without relation to Christ, and will hear his dreadsome words, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity." This precious concern quashes every bureaucratic understanding of the Church, quashes every narcissistic theologizing, and quashes the luciferic certainty that whatever bears an ecclesiastical label is inevitably of God. On the contrary, it places everything under the final judgment of Christ. Porphyrios faced this uncertainty articulated in the gospel with the most profound gospel faith. Trust in the love and mercy of God. The second testimony, which is in effect a further expression of the acute consciousness to which I have just referred, is the startling dialogue left to us by Porphyrios' physician, the late Dr. Georgos Papazachos. If all other testimonies were lost, this on its own would be sufficient to give us a sense of the agonizing paths of sanctity. This is the dialogue in which Porphyrios revealed that the great snare is not simply the lack of virtues, but the very virtues themselves, which in a strange and contradictory manner can come between a person and God. One evening, he phoned me at the surgery just after a couple of my patients had shown an excessive outpouring of gratitude in response to my care. Here are his words. "Georgos, it's the elder here. The two of us are on our way to hell together. We are going to hear, 'You fool, you fool. This night your soul will be required of you. In your life you enjoyed your good things. What you have stored up, whose will they be?'" I interrupted him. "What have we enjoyed in this life, elder? A ramshackle car, an empty bank account, or the sleep we never get?" He retorted sharply, "What's that you're saying? Doesn't everyone tell you what a great doctor you are? You look after us, you really care for us, you don't fleece us, and you take it, you swallow it all. Well then, your reward's gone. The same happens to me. They tell me I have gifts, that I can touch them and work miracles, that I am a saint, and I swallow it, fool and weakling that I am. So you see, that's why I said that we're going to hell together." "If we'll be going together," I replied, "then let's go to hell." He put down the phone saying, "I'm speaking to you in all seriousness, and you're forever making a joke of it. A good repentance to us both."